Hello everyone, Mirage here, and today I have another gameplay against a ranked 1 player with vampires, and I'm playing Pirates Arnaghad. That you can find the deck guide in the description below, very in-depth guide. So against Vampire is very important to fight the Tuirseach Invaders because the Veil tag is very useful against the bleeding. Unfortunately I don't have them in hand, I just mulligan away a Demon Worship in round 1, usually it is very bad, and also the Bear Witcher because it can break later on my Gael at Gwent. My opponent starts with the Arcane and also using immediately the tactical advantage to find his best cards for later use. Here the choice is maybe to play the Crach or the Defender. I opted finally to play the Defender, but definitely you can use whatever you want. I was fearing that this was not a devotion list, so I don't want the Crach to get hit waved too soon. And so here I'm just, as you can see, I look at the Tuirseach Invader because maybe, I changed the deck list and I removed them. Now they are still there. My opponents played the Fladder, which is very dangerous. I have to remove it as soon as possible. And with the Defender on board, definitely it's time to play Crach and Crate. I do not have the Terror of the Sea in the hand to get to stack some armor on as a finisher, so I have to use what I have. Here my opponent commits immediately the Deathlaugh. In my opinion is a good play because you still need to play there to win round 1 and you have to commit something against the pirate, otherwise you will be pushed in round 2. I play the Holger. Thanks to his effect I can make the Fladder weak enough to be targeted by the Crach effect, and I just removed it in a very efficient way. Now keeping up the Defender will be very difficult because I cannot protect from the bleeding and the armor is not protecting from the bleeding. He plays the Gael to accelerate removing my Defender, and unfortunately there is also the Blood Moon that is ticking. Just use one leader charge here to get some armor in hand, which is pretty useless to be honest against vampires, but mainly to select the right target, which is the Deathlaugh, to remove with Crach. So here I find myself in a good spot, even though there are a lot of bleeding, so a lot of things is going on also in the hand of my opponent with Regis that is strengthening all the way up. My opponent plays another engine here, and here I have to damage it first because otherwise it would have been Crach would have selected randomly between Gael and the engine. Just removed it in a very efficient way, but my Defender is just destroyed by all that bleeding. So now my opponent is much more free to dump his bleeding on my stuff. He plays Orianna, very threatening engine, and it's very difficult for me actually to try to remove it. I will try to do it with the help of the light longship, but I have the Chimera there that is blocking the Crach effect, and also the Gael, so it will be really difficult to deal with Orianna now. And this is the key moment also because he invested his Purify here just to get some bleeding going. Also trolling a little bit, but that's fine. So I'm pretty confident in investing a lot of things into this round, playing it deep, because I want to win round 1, otherwise I may be in trouble. So here it's also very dangerous, as you can see, a lot of bleeding, so a lot of points for my opponent, and the bleeding is also doubled because the Orianna is boosting himself. My opponent passes, it's not a bad pass. I also deliberate a lot of what to do here, while my opponent is BMing me again. But finally investing the Fukusia seems like the right choice here. It's a big investment, but I need to win round 1, and I also have the Arnaghad combo that is very powerful against vampires, And I have also the Tuirseach Invaders in the deck to counter the vampires themselves and the bleeding they can provide. So we go to the round 2. The main targets here are the 2 Tuirseach Invader, obviously the Revival and the Arnaghad combo. I managed to find the Sukrus, and in the deck I have a lot of tutors remaining. I can also resurrect the Defender with the Secret Fast Right. As you can see here, I have the Quen, Geralt Quen, I have Oneiromancy, I have a Royal Decree, so I have a big chance of getting the Arnaghad. I find the Royal Decree, and here I just do not mulligan anymore because I risk to break my Arnaghad, the shield on the Arnaghad by maybe drawing him. Open up with Defender, ready to get the Quen plus Arnaghad that can carry this game. My opponent plays very slowly with the Plumard, which is very weak. Maybe the biggest mistake here by my opponent. Should have respected my Defender more. So I have the opportunity to get the Arnaghad down with a shield that can counter a lot of the strategy of this deck. For example, Unseen Elder is pretty useless once the Arnaghad is down. My opponent plays the Defender. Fortunately, the Arnaghad is safe with the shield for this turn, so I can place the Sukrus just on his right to defend him. And my opponent is in a really tough spot now. He cannot do pretty much anything. Every card he plays gets just answered automatically by Arnaghad, and I can play also my last 2 cards to get more points. And so my opponent forfeits, and that's GG, I just win the game. And this was just to showcase you how to play against vampires. Remember also you have a very powerful tool with the Tuirseach Invader that I didn't draw now, to indirectly counter the bleeding, and maybe also if there is no bleeding in your field, then also Regis in the hand will not boost himself. But also Arnaghad is very powerful in this matchup, especially if you can counter like Detlef, Orianna and Unseen Elder in the last turns of the game automatically. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check the guide below, the in-depth guide written with also the video, and have happy holidays. See you next time.